Imagine sitting down to grade a final paper. You're reading this perfectly structured, brilliantly argued essay.
Right, an easy A plus.
Exactly. The prose is flawless. It cites 5 different peer-reviewed academic journals, complete with, specific authors, publication dates, and page numbers.
Oh, perfect.
It does. But there is just one massive problem. Every single one of those authors, those journals, and those page numbers, they're completely fabricated.
Wow.
Yeah, they do not exist anywhere in the real world. A machine simply invented them to please the student who asked for an essay. And this isn't some dystopian sci-fi scenario. This is what is happening in classrooms around the globe right now.
It's a profound disruption. We are watching the foundational pillars of, well, how we verify truth, how we assign ownership of ideas, and how we measure human intellect completely dissolve in real time.
Welcome to our deep dive. Our mission today is to give you, the listener, a comprehensive, time-saving shortcut to understanding this exact crisis. We're going to explore how artificial intelligence is fundamentally rewiring human learning, cognition, and the very role of the teacher.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. And to do this, we are drawing entirely from a fascinating 2026 book called The AI Classroom: Education, Teachers, and the Future of Human Learning by Professor Dr. Milton Biswas.
And it is an absolutely essential read because Dr. Biswas doesn't just treat AI as, like, a new software update.
Right.
He approaches it as a psychological and sociological earthquake. He's really looking at what this technology is physically doing to our brains and our social structures.
And why should you care about this? Well, whether you are a student navigating these tools, a professional trying to survive a labor market that feels like, shifting sand.
Constantly shifting.
Yeah. Or just someone inherently curious about the future of the human mind, understanding this algorithmic shift is non-negotiable. It's really the only way to avoid drowning in information overload and to maintain your intellectual autonomy.
Absolutely.
So, to make sense of where we're going, we first need to look at how we got here. How did educational technology actually evolve from chalk dust to chatbot?
Well, if you look at the history detailed in the text, you see that every leap in educational technology has dictated how humans process information. Long before mass literacy, the classroom was entirely built on oral traditions.
Right, sitting around and listening.
Exactly. Learning was deeply communal. It relied on storytelling, ritual, and human memory. Knowledge didn't live in a building, it lived in the collective minds of the community.
Then we get to the 18th and 19th centuries and the introduction of the blackboard.
A huge shift.
Which I know sounds like the most mundane object in the world to us today, but think about what that actually did. A teacher could write out a complex mathematical formula and suddenly abstract thought was made visual.
He was right there in front of everyone.
Yeah, a room of 40 students could look at the exact same concept at the exact same time. It created shared, synchronized cognition.
It was revolutionary for its time. And that paved the way for the mass integration of the printing press into education. The textbook democratized access in this unprecedented way.
You didn't have to be in the same geographic room as the foremost expert on biology to learn from them.
Right. But there is a catch. The knowledge in a printed book is static. It's a one-way street.
Even with later tech, right?
Yeah, even as the 20th century brought us radio and television, which were incredible innovations that beamed educational programs like Sesame Street directly into the homes of marginalized kids.
A huge deal.
Absolutely. But the learner was still fundamentally a passive receiver of fixed, immutable content.
Okay, let's unpack this. It feels like we're moving from riding a bicycle, where you do all the pedaling, you provide the energy, and you steer the journey yourself, to sitting in a self-driving car that actually talks back to you.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, a car that argues with your destination and suggests entirely new routes you never considered. Generative AI is not a passive tool.
No, not at all. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, generative AI represents what Dr. Biswas terms a disruptive rupture.
A disruptive rupture.
Exactly. It isn't just a faster way to find a fixed answer. It actively decentralizes authority. For centuries, the absolute authority in a classroom was the teacher standing at the front and the textbook sitting on the desk.
Right, that was the ultimate truth.
But now, knowledge is fluid, is being co-created in real time between the student's prompts and the machine's algorithms. And because of the probabilistic nature of these models, the output is sometimes completely unpredictable.
Which naturally brings us to the chaos we mentioned at the very beginning of this deep dive, the immediate crisis of authorship.
Yes.
Because if knowledge is co-created with a machine in seconds, Traditional homework is dead. We have generative models writing flawless essays in the time it takes a student to open a laptop.
And the book argues that this upends our entire evaluative framework. Historically, an essay was never just about the final string of words.
Right.
The essay was a proxy for a student's mind. It was physical evidence of their cognitive effort, their reasoning skills, and their ability to organize chaotic thoughts into a structured argument.
But now that a student can bypass all of that effort and generate beautiful prose instantly, the lines of intellectual ownership are entirely blurred.
Completely blurred. And banning the technology is a completely impractical fantasy. It just ignores the reality that modern digital literacy requires fluency with these exact tools.
But wait, let me push back and play devil's advocate here. Isn't using AI to write just the modern equivalent of using a calculator for math?
I hear that all the time.
Right. I mean, we don't force kids to do long division by hand once they understand the underlying concept.
Right.
Why is writing a history essay with AI fundamentally different than doing calculus with a graphing calculator?
It is a very common comparison, but Dr. Biswas points out a fundamental difference. Arithmetic is about reaching a single, objectively correct, verifiable answer.
Okay.
Writing is not. Writing is the actual process of synthesizing complex thought. It is the mechanism by which we figure out what we actually believe.
Oh, interesting. So the process is the point.
Exactly. If you outsource the writing, you outsource the thinking. So the solution proposed in the text is a massive pivot toward process-based assessment.
I have to stop you there. Process-based assessment sounds great in an academic journal, but I'm slightly confused about the logistics. What does that actually look like for a teacher grading a stack of papers on a Tuesday night?
Right. It sounds complicated,
Sure.
but it means you stop grading the final destination and you start grading the intellectual journey.
Okay.
Instead of just turning in a polished final draft, the student has to document their entire iterative process. They submit the specific AI prompts they used. They submit the raw output the machine gave them.
So you see the whole conversation.
Exactly. And most importantly, they submit their own critical annotations of that output. They have to prove how they mediated, fact-checked, edited, and elevated what the algorithm generated. You are assessing their editorial judgment, not just their final product.
So you're forcing them to stay engaged with the material, which makes me wonder what is physically happening inside our brains when we don't do that, when we just hand over the heavy lifting to the chatbot.
It's a real concern.
Because if you aren't doing the mental wrestling, your neurobiology has to be changing.
The neuroscience mentioned in the text is both fascinating and a bit alarming. Dr. Biswas introduces the concept of cognitive outsourcing.
Cognitive outsourcing.
Yes. This is the psychological mechanism where we delegate our memory and our complex problem-solving to external algorithms.
To make it relatable, it's like how none of us know our best friend's phone numbers anymore because our smartphone's contact app remembers them for us.
Right, exactly.
But we are applying that to deep intellectual labor.
And that leads to a severe decline in memorization. We have this modern tendency to dismiss memorization as just outdated rote repetition. But neurobiologically, memorizing facts builds mental scaffolding.
It's the foundation.
Yes, it constructs the neural pathways and frameworks that allow you to make complex associations later on. If you don't have a baseline of internalized knowledge, you lose what the book calls cognitive friction.
Cognitive friction, the necessary struggle.
Learning is supposed to be slightly difficult. The struggle is the mechanism of deep learning. If the AI simply hands you a highly polished answer, you bypass the friction entirely.
You're just gliding over it.
Compounding this issue, digital environments actively fragment our attention. Dr. Biswas describes a hyperlinked focus, where students are constantly jumping from tab to tab, prompt to prompt, optimizing for speed over deep comprehension.
To give an analogy, that hyperlinked focus feels like a car engine that is constantly misfiring and revving loudly in first gear, but it never actually shifts into a smooth, efficient highway cruise.
That's a great visual.
You are doing a lot of fast clicking, but you aren't actually getting anywhere deep. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If you are constantly treating your brain like a temporary hard drive that you immediately dump into the cloud, are you losing your ability to connect the dots independently?
The text warns of exactly that outcome, calling it digital amnesia.
Digital amnesia.
Yeah, we are training our brains to remember where to find information, rather than internalizing the information itself. We have to actively balance the incredible efficiency of these machines with the deliberate, disciplined cultivation of our own internal cognitive habits.
But the threat goes even deeper than just getting lazy. If we are outsourcing our cognitive friction to AI, relying on it to feed us the world, what happens when the AI completely lies to us?
Ah, yes. This is the phenomenon of AI hallucinations.
Right, but I think a lot of people misunderstand how this works. I want to make sure I have this right. The AI isn't pulling from a secret database of false information, is it?
No, not at all.
It's just predicting the next logical word in a sentence based on statistical probabilities. It doesn't actually know what truth is in a human sense.
That is the core mechanism. Large language models are essentially incredibly sophisticated autocomplete systems.
Just guessing the next word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They know a sequence of words sounds highly plausible. Because of that mechanism, they can, and frequently do, produce content that is entirely fabricated, but they deliver it with an absolute veneer of authoritative certainty.
Here's where it gets really interesting, going back to the hook of our deep dive. The book details a very specific threat here regarding fake references.
It is a massive threat to scholarly rigor. Because the AI is predicting what an academic citation should look like, it will invent an author's name that sounds academic.
Right.
It will generate a realistic-sounding journal title. It will even assign fake volume and page numbers to a study that literally does not exist.
That is wild.
And because the text isn't copied from anywhere, standard plagiarism checkers completely failed to flag it. It is newly invented fiction.
How on earth do we teach students to verify information when the fake sources look absolutely identical to the real ones? I mean, if the AI can mimic the aesthetic of truth perfectly, are we just raising a generation of cynics who trust absolutely nothing they read?
This raises an important question, perhaps the most critical pedagogical challenge outlined in the book. Dr. Biswas suggests the only defense is teaching what he calls epistemic humility.
Okay, stop right there. Epistemic humility is a very heavy academic phrase. What does that actually look like in practice? What does an eighth grader do differently when they have epistemic humility?
Epistemic humility simply means approaching information with the baseline assumption that your knowledge and the machine's knowledge might be flawed or incomplete.
Okay, so a healthy doubt.
Yes. For an eighth grader, it means they don't accept the chatbot's answer as the final word. They treat the AI's output as a rough first draft that is actively under suspicion.
Under suspicion, I like that.
The habit changes from simply reading an answer to actively triangulating sources.
Yeah.
If the AI gives them a fact, they open a new tab and search for a primary source to confirm it. It's about cultivating a healthy, rigorous skepticism, recognizing that verifying truth is an active verb, not a passive state.
It turns every student into a relentless investigative journalist of their own homework.
Exactly.
But let's follow the logical chain here. If students need this intense, highly customized guidance to navigate hallucinations and process-based assessments, that demands an immense amount of time from the teacher.
An incredible amount.
Can technology step in here? Is AI sophisticated enough to replace the human teacher and handle the personalized workload?
The book dives deeply into intelligent tutoring systems, or IATATs. A prominent example discussed is Carnegie Learning's Mathia.
Right.
These are systems designed to offer a personalized adaptive learning path available 24 hours a day. They operate by tracking a student's granular data, every single click, every error, the time it takes to answer, and they use that data to adjust the difficulty of the material in real time.
From a purely logistical standpoint, that is an incredible scaling of personalization. It has the potential to democratize education.
It really does.
You could offer elite-level, highly responsive, one-on-one tutoring to kids in severely under-resourced school districts who would never otherwise have access to that kind of tailored attention.
The potential for access is undeniably a massive breakthrough. However, the text points out severe limitations in the mechanism of how these systems view learning.
What kind of limitations?
Well, an intelligent tutoring system fundamentally breaks education down into reductive, measurable, quantifiable units. It optimizes for test scores and completion metrics. What the algorithm entirely lacks is genuine human empathy.
So it can see the data, but it misses the context.
Completely. An algorithm cannot read the subtle nonverbal cues of a student sitting at a screen. It doesn't know if a student is failing a math module because they don't understand fractions, or if they are failing because they're dealing with a personal hardship at home.
Oh, right. Or experiencing intense anxiety or suffering from social isolation.
Exactly. It's blind to all of that.
To put it another way, the AI is an incredibly powerful GPS for learning the procedural steps of a subject. It can calculate the fastest route to the right answer, but it has absolutely no idea if the driver of the car is too exhausted, too hungry, or too terrified to actually put their foot on the gas pedal.
That captures the limitation perfectly, and this is why the text argues the human mentor is utterly irreplaceable.
So teachers aren't going anywhere.
No. As AI becomes more capable of taking over the routine, procedural tasks, the basic content delivery, the rote grading, the math drills, the human educator is not rendered obsolete. Instead, their role elevates.
Elevates how?
They transition into a vital role of an ethical guide, an emotional anchor, and a mentor.
Because education is fundamentally not a data transfer operation.
It is a deeply relational, deeply moral endeavor. Teachers do things algorithms cannot compute. They model resilience in the face of failure. They physically navigate the complex, often messy social dynamics of a classroom.
Yeah.
They provide the narrative, inspiration, sharing stories of their own struggles and triumphs that actually sparks lifelong curiosity in a human being.
Think about the best teacher you ever had in your life. I guarantee you don't just remember the specific historical dates they made you memorize. You remember them because they made you feel seen.
Yes, exactly.
Did they notice when you were unusually quiet one afternoon? That human spark, that shared vulnerability and instinct for moral guidance cannot be coded.
No, it can't. And what's fascinating here is that physical human presence actually enhances accountability and trust. In these highly automated algorithmic environments, students are facing immense digital fatigue and alienation.
It's lonely.
Very lonely. The human teacher provides a necessary psychological safety net. True learning requires a community, and community demands human empathy.
So we've looked at the rewiring of the individual brain, the changing dynamics of the classroom, and the evolving role of the teacher. Let's zoom out to the macro level. If the foundational mechanics of learning are shifting this drastically, what happens to the future of the university institution itself?
Dr. Biswas outlines a massive structural shift toward digital campuses. The traditional university model, a fixed four-year timeline, a specific geographic location, and a static, pre-planned curriculum, is increasingly giving way to the realities of a rapidly shifting labor market.
Because the jobs are changing so fast.
Exactly. Because AI is automating so many entry-level tasks, the specific skills employers demand are changing constantly.
So the traditional four-year degree is essentially losing its monopoly as the ultimate proof of competence.
It is making way for dynamic, stackable micro-credentials and digital badges. These are highly specific certifications that prove a learner's agility and up-to-date competencies in real time.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, in an automated economy, proving you just learned how to manage a new AI workflow yesterday is often much more valuable than holding a generalized diploma printed 10 years ago.
That makes sense for the economy, but there is a dark side to this fully digital university model, isn't there? The book has a very stark warning about the political economy of edtech and something called learning analytics.
It is one of the most critical warnings in the text. When the entirety of a student's learning moves onto digital and AI platforms, every single micro-interaction is tracked and logged.
Everything?
Everything. Every click, every time they pause a lecture video, every second they hesitate before answering a multiple-choice question. This turns human behavior into commodified data for corporate edtech platforms.
Wait, I am genuinely confused here. I need to push back. Weren't we just praising intelligent tutoring systems a few minutes ago for doing exactly this?
We were, yes.
We said tracking click-by-click data is what allows the AI to perfectly customize the difficulty for a struggling student. Now we are saying this tracking is a dystopian surveillance panopticon. Where exactly is the line between helpful customization and creepy surveillance?
The line is defined by the asymmetry of power and the presence of consent. It becomes surveillance when students lack transparency about what specific behavioral data is being harvested, and they have no meaningful consent over how that data might be monetized or used to profile them by these platforms long after they leave the classroom.
Oh, okay.
And Dr. Biswas highlights a severe psychological consequence to this constant observation: the chilling effect.
Can you give me a concrete example of that chilling effect in action?
Imagine a student working through a complex, controversial topic on a digital platform. True learning requires authentic risk-taking. It requires making mistakes, proposing wild theories, and asking genuinely naive questions to figure things out.
Like thinking out loud.
Yes. But if that student knows that every single hesitation, every deleted sentence, and every quote-unquote dumb question is permanently logged by an algorithm and might somehow affect their future micro-credentials or employability profile, They stop taking risks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They only input safe, sanitized answers. The constant surveillance actually stifles the authentic, messy, intellectual exploration that a university is supposed to foster.
That is incredibly sobering. If you feel like you are always on the record, you never actually experiment.
Exactly.
Let's synthesize all of this for you, the listener. We have taken a deep dive into the algorithmic shift rewriting education. What is abundantly clear from Dr. Biswas's work is that this is not just about learning to use new software.
No, it's so much bigger.
It is a fundamental redefinition of what it means to be original, how we actively verify truth in a sea of synthetic information, and how our actual neurobiology processes knowledge.
And through all of this technological upheaval, the text ultimately reinforces why human empathy and ethical mentorship remain the absolute bedrock of human development. The algorithms are perfectly equipped to handle the data, but humans must be the ones to handle the wisdom.
You are now equipped to navigate this landscape. You understand the hidden pitfalls of cognitive outsourcing, the invisible threat of hallucinated citations, and the surveillance risks of digital platforms.
Right.
More importantly, you know how to leverage AI as a cognitive partner, a collaborative tool, rather than a crutch that replaces your own critical friction.
It is entirely about maintaining your intellectual autonomy in an automated world.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final kind of lingering concept to mull over on your own. Toward the end of the text, there is a fascinating discussion about how AI art generation tools can sometimes trap students in algorithmic comfort zones. It really got me thinking about the broader promise of personalized AI tutors. If these incredibly advanced machines adapt perfectly to your unique cognitive profile, constantly feeding you information exactly the way you like to consume it, perfectly tailored to your pre-existing worldview, are they actually helping you learn? Or are they trapping you in a cozy, highly personalized echo chamber that prevents you from ever experiencing the transformative power of struggling with a perspective completely alien to your own?
A vital defining question for the future of the human mind.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and whatever you do, don't let the algorithm smooth out all your cognitive friction. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.